Good morning and happy Sunday. My name is Onepeg MG, and this is the news. Sorry I haven't been uploading as often as I had been in the past. It's just been a little bit busier now that I'm really trying to push for full-time status on Twitch, so there's that. But I wanted to at least get everybody caught up now that it's been a couple of days since my last upload. Just kind of hunting around the internet today, noticed a couple of different things, thought I would share with you guys. So first up is something that's actually been known by the community for a while, but just in case there are some newer folks to the game that are watching this, I thought that I would at least disseminate this little piece of information. So the PP9 Klin, which is a small SMG with a foldable stock, has a bug that's been known about for a little while. Now, whenever you come across raiders in the labs, for instance, you'll always notice that the Klin that they are shooting you with, if you come across one, tends to be doing it with a folded stock. It never seems to be something where they've unfolded it and shouldered it, essentially pistolizing the SMG. And the reason for that is because the SMG's stats for recoil don't change based on whether or not the stock is folded. Now, this has been a bug for a while, but as you can notice, right here is your PP9. You see the vertical recoil of 50 and the horizontal recoil of 165 with the stock unfolded, and then with it folded, the stats are the same. Now, this has been, test verified, etc., by lots and lots of people, and it's just one of those things that BSG hasn't gotten around to fixing yet. Just thought I would share. Now, I don't know if this works for the Keter, but I know it works for the Klin. Next up is a Reddit post that was made by the user Talking Hands, where he complained about the status of night vision goggles. Essentially, the idea is that the NVGs don't really give anyone any kind of an added advantage, especially with people that either turn up their gamma or, in some cases, people that are using their NVIDIA video card settings to modify the coloration of the game so that you actually get quote-unquote night vision with the modifications available in the software. In this case, the gentleman or lady in question ended up making a post about this, saying that it should relax the noise that it makes when you put them on, the screen noise, because it's kind of impossible to see anything really, even using the higher tier night vision goggles. Now, for those of us that aren't adjusting our gamma, or those of you that don't, in the case of the game, night vision goggles absolutely help, because if you play it on the base color and brightness settings, it gets pretty dark. However, there are most players, like myself, increase the gamma maybe 20 to 25% in order to be able to see a little bit better in those shadowy areas. Now, we know that there has been talk of reworking the lighting in a lot of situations when it comes to these maps, and it looks as though Nikita's response to this is that they will be adjusting how NVGs work, possibly even adding some screen noise like they do in DayZ for people that try to adjust their gamma in order to be able to see better in the dark. So I guess we'll see how that comes along. Now, the last bit of news has to do with a relatively... Now, the last bit of news I have for today actually has to do with a relatively minor bug, but one that could end up serving to help you guys if you're stuck on a certain task. In this case, it's the task Insomnia, which is given as a task at the later point in the game from Prapper. It's an elimination type task where you have to kill 30 PMCs during the nighttime hours between 2300 and 04 hours of the day. Now, that could turn out to be something that is a little bit time consuming and takes a little while. But there's a little bit of a workaround here. So for this task, the idea is that you need to kill 30 PMCs at night, right? But the vast majority of the player base tends to not be operating right now in a lot of the maps. It's this kind of overwhelming meta level feel that the player base is dwindling. They know that they're kind of at the end of the patch cycle, and unless you're a super hardcore Tarkov buff like me, you tend to not see a lot of people playing right now. Usually when the new patches come, there's a big hype, you get a big pump in, a bolus of players, and then that kind of drops off as the patch continues because people start getting bored or frustrated or whatever. But there's a workaround, a little bit, for this. The most popular map, as we know right now, is the lab. It's where everybody tends to congregate because that's where the majority of like the really good loot is, right? So for those of you that are unfamiliar, there's actually a bug with the lab. There's actually 2 different lab lobbies, and I'll show you what I mean. On the other maps, there are windows or an indoors and outdoors type of situation. We have those environmental level effects with sunrise and sunset, night, dark, light, etc. So in this case, the times absolutely matter. However, the left radio button in this case is the one that's always selected. So if we go to the lab and we cycle through, we see a lobby with certain players in it, right? Now try and keep in your mind just a few of these different names that seem to be sitting in this lobby looking for group, okay? If we back out and we then check the customs map or any of the other maps and select the other time, and then go back to the lab and cycle through our menus, you'll notice that there is a different lobby in terms of the names that are listed. Now, I would argue that the names suddenly wouldn't have truncated into a completely different list that is significantly smaller. So it has been the overwhelming opinion of the player base that knows of this minor bug that there are indeed 2 separate lobbies. Now, the important thing with this is that the 2 separate lobbies, if you check against the times that are listed here, when you go into the map, it will actually be reflective currently of the time that is being listed on places like customs and factory and woods, etc. So, moral of the story is if you load into the labs using the radio button that corresponds to the time of day when you enter right now, and it may be fixed, you have the ability to rack up those PMC kills and have it work against the Prapper task. Now, my guess is that some point in the near future, BSG will likely fix this. But for the time being, if you guys are stuck on that task, it could be a way to at least work your way through it a little bit. Oh, and you know what? I did have one more thing. I almost forgot. Right now, the Peacekeeper task, the guide, where you have to go through each of the maps in succession without dying. You have to enter and extract through all of them without dying. If you are in the middle of that task and you load into a PvE map, okay, and then disconnect from that PvE map, you don't actually get to the extraction, but you disconnect like you were doing some testing for whatever reason, or you wanted to fight some scav bots in between because you needed a break from the stress of trying to extract. If you do that in the middle of that task, at the moment, it will count as you dying and failing that task, and you will have to start over, okay? So that's something, again, that BSG will likely be fixing in the very near future. But for the time being, just to let you know, in regard to the task, the guide, if you are going through that task, do not go into PvE mode, single-player mode, and then disconnect from the map because the game will count it as you dying, and you'll have to start the task over, okay? Just as a weird side thing. Okay, that's all I have for today, guys. As always, I will be hopping onto the stream once this video is uploaded. If you want to come in and say hi, please stop over to the Twitch channel and say hello. I would love to have a conversation with any of you guys about anything related to Tarkov or anything else for that matter. All right? I will see you tomorrow. Otherwise, thanks.